The space station hung silent against the backdrop of Europa, Jupiter's icy moon. Inside, Lieutenant Zach Miller adjusted his uniform one last time before the meeting. His heart beat fast, but his face stayed calm. After all, he was about to make history as one of the first humans to speak face-to-face with aliens. "How do I look?" he asked, turning to his teammate. Olivia Grant, the mission commander, nodded with approval, like someone I'd trust with the future of our species. She handed him the small translator device. "Remember your training. No sudden movements, no showing teeth when you smile." Zach slipped the device into his pocket. "Got it. Friendly but formal." The team of 6 gathered in the entry room. Besides Zach and Commander Grant, there was Dr. Sam Porter, the xenobiologist, Kelly Parsons, head of security, Frank Dominguez, the technology expert, and Rita Wilson, the cultural specialist. 6 humans chosen to represent Earth in this moment that would change everything. "They're docking now," said Rita, watching the screen that showed the outside of the station. "Right on time." The alien ship was beautiful, like flowing liquid metal that somehow held its shape. It connected to the station with barely a sound. "Remember," Commander Grant said quietly, "we know almost nothing about the Zoraxians except what they've shared in messages. Stay alert." The door slid open. The first thing Zach noticed was the light. The Zoraxians seemed to glow from within, their skin shifting colors like oil on water. They stood taller than humans, with 4 arms and bodies that moved with strange grace. Their eyes, 3 on each face, reflected the stars themselves. "Welcome," Zach said, careful to keep his voice steady. The translator in his hand converted his words into the musical sounds the aliens used for speech. The lead Zoraxian stepped forward. Its skin pulsed with blue and green lights as it responded. The translator in Zach's hand spoke in a flat computer voice. "We are pleased to meet the representatives of Earth." The meeting moved to the main room where both groups sat at a round table. The humans on one side, the aliens on the other. So far, everything was going according to plan. "We have traveled far to meet you," the lead Zoraxian said. Its name, or at least what the translator called it, was Speaker. "Your signals have been reaching our world for many of your years. We find your species interesting." Dr. Porter leaned forward. "We have many questions about your biology and your world." "As do we about yours," Speaker replied. Its skin flickered with yellow patterns. "We are particularly interested in how your minds work." For 2 hours they talked. The Zoraxians asked about Earth, about human society, about how humans thought and felt. They seemed most interested in human emotions. "You speak of something called empathy," Speaker said. "This concept does not translate well." Rita tried to explain. "It means we can feel what others feel. When we see someone in pain, we can imagine that pain as if it were our own." The Zoraxian skin flashed with rapid colors as they communicated among themselves. Something about the way they moved made Zach uneasy. "We would like to see this," Speaker finally said. Commander Grant shook her head. "I'm not sure I understand what you're asking." "A demonstration," Speaker insisted. "How do humans show this empathy?" Frank Dominguez stepped in. "Maybe we could show them some videos, stories that demonstrate human emotions?" "A good idea," Zach agreed, relieved to have a solution. He reached for his tablet to pull up some files. That's when everything went wrong. As Zach extended his arm toward the tablet, Speaker suddenly jerked backward. Its skin flashed bright red. The other Zoraxians immediately stood up, their bodies rigid. "Weapon!" The translator squawked as Speaker made a high-pitched sound. "No!" Zach dropped the tablet, raising his hands. "It's just for information." But the Zoraxians were already moving. From somewhere in their flowing robes, they pulled out slim devices that looked like silver wands. Kelly Parsons, the security officer, jumped to her feet. "Everyone down!" she shouted, reaching for her sidearm. The only weapon the humans had brought, and only for absolute emergencies. She never got to use it. The aliens pointed their wands, and blinding light filled the room. Zach felt like his head was being crushed. He fell to his knees, his vision blurring. Through watery eyes, he saw Dr. Porter collapse first, then Rita. Frank tried to run for the door but dropped halfway there. Kelly managed to fire one shot before she too crumpled to the floor. "Commander," Grant was shouting into her wrist communicator. "Emergency protocol, station compromised. Get the shuttle ready." Zach tried to crawl toward her, but his limbs wouldn't work right. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Speaker standing over Frank's body, its skin now a deep, pulsing purple as it examined him with cold curiosity. When Zach woke up, he was strapped to a cold metal table. His head pounded, and bright lights above him made his eyes water. He tried to move, but the restraints held him tight. "He's awake," a voice said. "Human, not alien." A face moved into view. It was Rita, but something was wrong. Her eyes looked empty, and a thin metal device was attached to her temple. "Rita," Zach whispered. "What happened? Where are we?" "On their ship," she replied in a flat voice. "They want to study us." Zach looked around as best he could. The room was filled with strange equipment. On other tables nearby, he could see Kelly and Frank, both unconscious. Dr. Porter was nowhere to be seen. "Commander Grant?" he asked. "Escaped," Rita said. "With some of the station crew. The aliens are hunting them." A door slid open and Speaker entered, followed by two other Zoraxians. Their skin now pulsed with cold blue light. "The human is conscious," Speaker said, approaching Zach's table. "Good, we can begin." "Begin what?" Zach demanded. "What are you doing? We came in peace." "Yes," Speaker replied. "That was fortunate for us. It made collection much easier." "Collection?" Zach pulled against his restraints. "We're not specimens." Speaker leaned closer, its three eyes studying Zach's face. "That is exactly what you are. Your species produces neurochemicals we have never encountered before. Your emotional responses, especially what you call fear and pain, create compounds that are valuable to us." A cold realization washed over Zach. This wasn't first contact. This was a trap. "Not a trap," Speaker corrected. "A harvest." One of the other aliens approached with a device that looked like a thin needle. "This one first," it said. "The translator indicates it has strong emotional capacity." As the needle came closer to his eye, Zach struggled harder. "You don't have to do this. We can talk. We can work together." "We are not interested in cooperation," Speaker said. "Your species will serve a greater purpose as resources." In the corner of the room, Rita watched with those empty eyes. The device on her temple glowed faintly. "Rita, help me," Zach pleaded. She didn't move. "They've connected her to their network," Speaker explained. "We are learning much about human brain structure." The needle touched Zach's skin just below his eye. Sharp pain made him gasp. "Excellent response," said the alien with the needle. "Note the water forming in the visual organs." "Tears," Speaker said. "Their emotional displays produce physical secretions." With horror, Zach realized they were collecting his tears. As the pain increased, he couldn't hold them back. Meanwhile, in a small shuttle racing away from Europa, Commander Grant watched the Zoraxian ship on her scanner. Her remaining crew, just 3 people who had been in other parts of the station during the attack, sat in shocked silence. "We need to warn Earth," she said, her voice tight with anger and fear. This wasn't first contact. It was an invasion scouting party. On her screen, a small alert flashed. The tracker signals from her team's emergency implants showed they were moving. The alien ship was leaving Jupiter's orbit and it was heading toward Earth. 6 months passed since the failed first contact. Earth had changed. Cities once bright with lights now stayed dark at night. People moved underground or into hidden bases. The world prepared for war. Admiral Paul Blackwood stood on the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, watching Earth from 250,000 miles away. At 62, he had never expected to lead humanity's defense against aliens, yet here he was, the last hope for a frightened planet. "Admiral," said a young officer, stepping up beside him, The latest reports from Mars outposts are ready. Blackwood nodded without looking away from Earth. What do they see, Lieutenant Rogers? Multiple objects entering the solar system, sir. Moving fast. Bigger than the scout ship we encountered 6 months ago. How many? The lieutenant hesitated. At least 30, sir, maybe more. Blackwood finally turned. His face showed no fear, only determination. Then we stick to the plan. Alert all ships to take their positions. It's time to see if humanity remembers how to fight. Down on Earth, in a research facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Natalie Chen worked without stopping. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept properly in days. Around her, screens displayed information about the Zoraxians, everything Earth had learned from the Europa incident. Dr. Chen called her assistant, Ben Foster. The neural samples are ready. Natalie moved to a sealed container. Inside was a small piece of tissue recovered from the space station. Zoraxian biological material left behind in their hurry to leave with the human captives. This is our best chance to understand them, she said, carefully preparing the sample for testing. They think like a hive, Ben, individual bodies but connected minds. Is that why they took our people? To study how we think? Natalie's hands paused briefly. Yes, but there's more to it. According to Commander Grant's report, they're specifically interested in human emotions. Our tears, our fear responses, our pain. But why? Because they don't have them, not like we do. Natalie looked up from her work. They experience sensation collectively, but they've never evolved empathy for other species. To them, our emotional responses are like valuable chemicals. A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridor. What's happening? Ben asked, looking around in confusion. Natalie moved quickly to her computer. They're here, sooner than we expected. Above Earth's atmosphere, the battle had already begun. Captain Eric Summers commanded the USV Defiant, one of Earth's most advanced warships. But against the Zoraxian fleet, it felt like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted as his ship rocked from enemy fire. Get us behind that satellite cluster. His crew worked frantically, their training holding despite their fear. On the main screen, Summers watched 3 other human ships explode in bright flashes of light. Sir, his communications officer called out. Admiral Blackwood is ordering all ships to fall back to defensive position Beta. Summers gripped his chair as another blast hit them. We fall back, they head straight to Earth. We need to slow them down somehow. He studied the tactical display. His ship was damaged, but still functional. The engine room reported the experimental warp drive was still online. The same technology that had been in development when the Zoraxians first appeared. What happens if we activate the warp drive within Mars's gravity well? He asked his science officer. The woman's eyes widened. Sir, that would create a massive gravitational distortion. It could tear the ship apart. And what would it do to anything nearby? She understood immediately. The same. But sir, that's a suicide mission. I know. Summers opened the ship-wide communication channel. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency evacuation, get to the escape pods. 20 minutes later, the USV Defiant flew directly toward the 3 largest Zoraxian warships. The escape pods were gone, carrying the crew to safety. Only Summers remained. For Earth, he whispered, and activated the warp drive. The flash was visible from the lunar base. Where 4 ships had been, there was now only debris and a strange distortion in space that slowly faded away. Admiral Blackwood watched silently. Get me the status of the alien fleet, he ordered. 3 enemy ships destroyed, sir. The rest are regrouping, but it slowed their advance. Blackwood nodded. Captain Summers just bought us time, let's not waste it. On Earth, in the small town of Oak Ridge, Maria Williams helped her brother Dan pack essentials into their car. The evacuation order had come an hour ago. All civilians were to report to the nearest underground shelter. Do you think it's really happening? Dan asked, loading the last box. At 19, he was trying to sound brave, but his hands trembled slightly. Maria, 24 and a nurse at the local hospital, nodded. The military wouldn't evacuate the whole coast if it wasn't serious. The shelters are our best chance. They joined the steady stream of cars heading inland. Military vehicles passed them, going in the opposite direction, toward the coast. Maria watched them disappear over the horizon. Those poor soldiers, she said quietly, heading right into it. Among those soldiers was Sergeant Alan Rodriguez. He crouched with his squad behind a concrete barrier at the San Diego Naval Base. Above them, strange ships filled the sky, smaller than the warships in space, but deadly up close. "Remember your training," he told his team. "Aim for the joints in their armor. Don't let them take you alive." The aliens came in waves. They moved oddly, almost flowing across the ground. Their armor shimmered with the same changing colors as their skin. Rodriguez and his team fired steadily, dropping several of the creatures, but there were too many. "Fall back to position 2, Rodriguez ordered. His squad retreated in perfect order, providing cover fire for each other. A blinding flash knocked Rodriguez off his feet. When his vision cleared, he saw 3 of his soldiers lying motionless. The aliens surrounded them. "No!" he shouted, raising his weapon again. Something hit him from behind, a stinging pain, then numbness spreading through his body. He fell, forward, paralyzed but conscious. The Zoraxians dragged him and the other surviving humans to a waiting ship. Inside, it looked like a laboratory. Cold tables with restraints, strange equipment that hummed and pulsed with light. Rodriguez was strapped down next to a young soldier from his squad, Private Carly Peters. Her eyes were wide with fear. "Sergeant," she whispered, "what are they going to do to us?" Before he could answer, the Zoraxians entered. One of them approached Peters first. It held a device that looked like a silver scalpel. "Subject is female, approximately 20 Earth years," it said in flat English. "Beginning tissue collection." Without warning, it cut into Peters's arm. She screamed in pain. The aliens made no move to numb the area or help her. They simply watched and recorded her reactions. Rodriguez struggled against his restraints. "Stop it, she's just a kid." The aliens ignored him. As Peter's cries grew weaker, Rodriguez felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel since childhood. Tears formed in his eyes, first from anger, then from helplessness. One of the Zoraxians noticed. It approached him, its 3 eyes studying his face with cold interest. "Fluid secretion from ocular organs," it said. Collecting sample, it reached out with a small device, catching a tear that rolled down Rodriguez's cheek. The alien held it up to the light, examining it closely. "This emotional response produces unique compounds," it told the others. "More valuable than expected." The Zoraxians gathered around, their skin pulsing with rapid color changes as they communicated among themselves. For the first time, they seemed truly interested in something about the humans beyond simple experimentation. Rodriguez didn't understand why they were so fascinated by his tears, but something told him this might be important, that this strange reaction might be the first weakness they'd shown. As the aliens turned their attention back to Peters, Rodriguez forced himself to remember everything. Someday, if he survived, this information might matter. And somewhere on that ship, unknown to Rodriguez, was Lieutenant Zach Miller, his body scarred from months of alien tests, but his mind still fighting, still watching, still learning the enemy's secrets. The invasion of Earth had begun, but so had humanity's understanding of what might be their only chance to fight back. Dr. Natalie Chen hadn't left the underground lab in 3 weeks. The invasion had intensified, with Zoraxian forces controlling most major coastal cities worldwide. But here, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, she was close to a breakthrough. "I need to show you something," she said to Admiral Blackwood, who had arrived from the lunar base after it was damaged in an attack. She pointed to a screen showing brain scans. "This is a human brain, and this," she swiped to another image, "is what we've pieced together about Zoraxian neural structure." Blackwood studied the images. Even to his untrained eye, the differences were clear. Where the human brain showed distinct regions, the Zoraxian equivalent looked more like an interconnected web. "They think collectively," Natalie explained. Their minds are always linked to other Zoraxians through some kind of quantum connection. That's why they're so coordinated in battle. Is that a weakness we can use? Blackwood asked. His face showed the strain of leading a losing war. Natalie nodded slowly. Maybe. Because they share all sensations, they never developed shields against emotional contagion. Human emotions, especially strong ones like grief and rage, seem to disrupt their neural patterns. You're saying we can hurt them with our feelings? Blackwood sounded skeptical. Not exactly, but the chemical markers produced during intense emotional states appear toxic to their system. She pulled up another screen showing a simulation. This is what happened when we exposed Zoraxian tissue samples to human tears. The cellular structure began breaking down. Blackwood leaned closer. Those tears came from captured soldiers who were later rescued, Natalie finished. Their tears contained high levels of stress hormones and unique compounds we're still analyzing, but the effect on Zoraxian biology was dramatic. For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in Blackwood's eyes. How do we weaponize this? We're working on it, but there's something else. Natalie hesitated. We've been monitoring enemy communications. These Zoraxians aren't just invading Earth for territory, they're harvesting humans. Our emotional responses produce compounds they've never encountered before. They consider it a valuable resource. Blackwood's expression hardened. Then we'll show them just how potent human emotions can be. In a Zoraxian holding facility on what used to be the outskirts of Boston, Sergeant Rodriguez had developed a routine. Every day when the aliens came to experiment on the prisoners, he would show them pictures he had managed to hide in his boot before capture. Photos of his family, his home, his dog. The pictures meant nothing to the Zoraxians, but they triggered emotional responses in Rodriguez and the other prisoners, responses the aliens eagerly recorded and studied. What the Zoraxians didn't realize was that Rodriguez was studying them too. They react when we cry, he whispered to the prisoner in the next cell, a civilian named Greg Young who had been captured during the initial attack. Have you noticed? They get disoriented. Greg nodded. The guard outside my cell backed away when I broke down yesterday. Almost seemed afraid. Rodriguez had spent weeks carefully testing his theory. He'd show a picture to another prisoner, causing a strong emotional reaction, then watch the nearest Zoraxian. The pattern was consistent. The alien would experience something like a momentary glitch, its skin colors flickering chaotically. Today, Rodriguez planned to push further. When the door to his cell opened, he was ready. The Zoraxian that entered was one he recognized from its color patterns, the one they called Researcher. It approached with the usual tools for taking samples. Rodriguez pulled out a new picture he had been saving, one showing children injured during the San Diego attack. Look at what you did, he said, staring at the image himself and allowing his grief and rage to build. Tears formed in his eyes. The effect on Researcher was immediate, and stronger than Rodriguez expected. The alien staggered backward, its skin flashing in painful-looking bursts of color. It made a high-pitched sound Rodriguez had never heard before. Two other Zoraxians rushed in. When they touched Researcher, they too began showing the same symptoms. As if the reaction was spreading between them, Rodriguez memorized everything he saw. This wasn't just discomfort, this was pain. Thousands of miles away, Lieutenant Lisa Crawford led a special operations team through the ruins of Chicago. Their mission? Locate and rescue any human prisoners from the Zoraxian processing center that had been established in the former Willis Tower. Movement ahead, whispered her second-in-command, Jack Weber. Two aliens, standard patrol pattern. Crawford signaled for the team to hold position. They wore special suits developed by Dr. Chen's team, designed to mask human biosignatures from Zoraxian sensors. Wait for them to pass, then we move, she said quietly. Once the patrol was gone, the team advanced quickly through rubble-filled streets. The Willis Tower loomed ahead, its familiar shape now distorted by alien technology that covered the upper floors like a metallic fungus. Entry point is on the north side, lower level, Crawford reminded them. Intel says they're holding at least 50 humans inside. They reached the building without incident. Almost too easily, Crawford thought. Inside, they followed their planned route to the holding cells. This doesn't feel right, Weber said, echoing her thoughts. Security's too light. Crawford nodded. Stay alert, could be a trap. When they reached the cell block, they found the doors unlocked. Inside, about 20 prisoners sat or lay on the floor. Most looked half-starved. Some had visible surgical scars. U.S. Special Forces, Crawford announced. We're here to evacuate you. One man stood up shakily. His face was gaunt, but Crawford recognized him immediately. Lieutenant Miller? She gasped. It was the diplomat from the first contact mission, presumed dead for months. Miller nodded weakly. They kept some of us alive for study. We need to move fast, Crawford said, helping him toward the door. Can you walk? Yes, but you need to know. This was deliberate. Miller's voice was urgent despite his weakness. They wanted some of us to escape. They're tracking us somehow. Crawford felt a chill. The rescue teams last month led the aliens straight back to 3 hidden bases, Miller confirmed. They put tracking devices in us, microscopic, undetectable with our technology. Crawford made a quick decision. New plan. We take only Miller. The rest stay until we can figure out how to remove the trackers. The other prisoners looked devastated but understood the logic. There's something else, Miller said as they headed back toward the exit. I've learned their language, been inside their communication system. They're not just studying us, they're harvesting a compound from human tears. Dr. Chen discovered that, Crawford told him. Tears contain chemicals toxic to their neural network. Miller shook his head. Not just tears. Specific emotions produce different compounds. They're collecting them all. Fear, grief, rage, even joy. Like we're some kind of emotion farm. As they reached the street, Crawford's radio crackled. Base to Rescue 1. We've received new intel. The enemy is broadcasting neural patterns from human captives. Repeat, they're broadcasting human brain patterns across their fleet. Miller's eyes widened. That's it. That's how they maintain control over such long distances. They're using human brain patterns as a carrier wave for their communications. Crawford looked at him. Can we disrupt it? Maybe. If we could overlay a stronger emotional pattern, something their systems aren't designed to process. Crawford's mind raced. Like what? The strongest human emotion I've seen affect them was grief, Miller said. When they showed me footage of my colleague Frank being dissected, I completely broke down. The Zoraxians in the room with me actually experienced neural shock. Crawford stopped walking. Frank Dominguez, the tech expert from your mission, Miller, nodded sadly. You knew him? We grew up together, same neighborhood in Chicago. Crawford's voice became tight. He was my best friend since 3rd grade. As the reality of Frank's fate sank in, Crawford felt grief rise inside her like a wave. Tears filled her eyes. Beside her, Miller suddenly grabbed her arm. Crawford, your emotional response, I can record it and upload it directly to their command network. I've got access codes I memorized. Through her tears, Crawford looked at him. You think it would work? It might overload their system temporarily. Give us an advantage. Miller pulled out a small device he'd hidden in his clothes. These readings, combined with the right access codes, for the first time since the invasion began, Crawford felt something like hope. Do it, she said, letting her grief for Frank flow freely now. Let them feel what they've done to us. As Miller worked with the device, Crawford radioed Admiral Blackwood. Sir, we may have found a way to strike back, but we'll need to coordinate with Dr. Chen's team immediately. The plan that would become known as the Tears Protocol was about to be born. 3 days after Lieutenant Crawford's discovery, humanity prepared for its first coordinated counterattack. Deep in the underground facility, Dr. Natalie Chen worked with a team of volunteers. Each person sat in a small room, wired to special equipment. Remember, she told them, we need genuine emotional responses. The stronger, the better. The volunteers nodded grimly, Most were soldiers or civilians who had lost loved ones in the invasion. They knew what was asked of them: to relive their worst memories, to feel their grief and rage fully, and to let the machines record these emotions. Admiral Blackwood watched from behind a glass wall. His face showed the weight of the decision he had made. Using human suffering as a weapon felt wrong, but after months of watching Earth fall to the aliens, he had no more room for moral debates. "Will it work?" he asked Chen quietly. "The tests are promising," she replied. Lieutenant Miller's upload of Crawford's emotional response temporarily disrupted Zoraxian communications in 3 cities. With a coordinated, larger-scale attack. She didn't finish the sentence, but her eyes held cautious hope. Blackwood nodded. "Begin when ready." In what remained of the lunar base, the rescued Sergeant Rodriguez prepared with a strike team. Their mission was the most dangerous: board the Zoraxian command ship and plant devices that would amplify the emotional attack. "These are the portable transmitters," explained a technician, handing each soldier a small black box. "Once activated, they'll broadcast the emotional data directly into the Zoraxian neural network." Rodriguez examined the device. It looked so simple for something that carried humanity's hopes. "Remember your training," he told his team. "We get in, plant the devices in these 4 locations, and get out. The main attack begins 1 hour after we confirm placement." A young soldier raised her hand. "Sir, what happens to any Zoraxians near the devices when they activate?" Rodriguez's face hardened. "Based on the tests, they'll experience something equivalent to extreme pain. Their neural network will overload." "Good," said another soldier, whose family had died in the Chicago attack. No one disagreed. As the last preparations were made, Lieutenant Zach Miller met with Lieutenant Crawford and Admiral Blackwood. Miller's body still showed the scars of his captivity, but his eyes burned with determination. "I've uploaded everything I know about Zoraxian ship layouts and security protocols," he said, pointing to a display of the alien command vessel. "Rodriguez and his team should be able to reach all 4 target points with minimal contact." Crawford studied the plan. "And once the devices are active, the emotional data we've collected will flood their neural network," Miller explained. "It won't just affect the aliens on the command ship, it will spread through their entire collective consciousness." Blackwood looked troubled. "You're talking about a weapon that causes pain to an entire species at once." "Yes," Miller said simply. "Just like they've done to us." Crawford touched the Admiral's arm. "Sir, I've seen what they do to human prisoners. They feel no empathy, no mercy. They see us as resources to be harvested." Blackwood was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Proceed with the operation. May God forgive us for what we're about to do." The assault began at dawn. Rodriguez and his team used a captured Zoraxian shuttle to approach the command ship. Thanks to Miller's intelligence, they knew exactly how to bypass the security systems. "Approaching docking bay," Rodriguez said into his comm. "No alarm so far." The shuttle landed smoothly in a secondary bay that Miller had identified as rarely used. The team moved quickly, splitting into 4 groups as planned. Rodriguez led the first group toward the ship's central communication hub. They encountered 2 Zoraxian guards and eliminated them silently. "First target reached," he reported after they entered the hub. "Planting device now." One by one, the other teams reported success. The 4th team had a brief firefight, but managed to plant their device before retreating. "All devices in place," Rodriguez confirmed. "Beginning extraction." But as they headed back to the shuttle, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. "They've spotted us," shouted a soldier as Zoraxian troops appeared at the end of the corridor. Rodriguez made a split-second decision. "Everyone fall back to target point 3. We'll hold there until the devices activate." The team fought their way to the chosen location, a reinforced section where they could defend themselves. Rodriguez knew they might not make it out, but the mission was already a success. The devices were in place. On Earth, Dr. Chen received the confirmation. All devices placed, initiating Tier's protocol in 3 minutes. The volunteers connected to her equipment closed their eyes. On screens, their brain patterns showed the emotional responses building: grief, rage, pain, all the feelings humans had experienced during the brutal invasion. Transmission beginning, Chen announced. In space, Admiral Blackwood watched from the bridge of Earth's last functioning carrier. The fleet was positioned to strike as soon as the emotional attack took effect. All ships prepare to engage on my mark, he ordered. On the Zoraxian command ship, Rodriguez and his team had barricaded themselves in a small control room. Outside, aliens tried to break through the sealed door. 1 minute until activation, Rodriguez told his soldiers. It's been an honor serving with you. Then his radio crackled. It was Miller's voice. Sergeant, the Zoraxian leader is requesting communication. They know something's happening. Rodriguez was surprised. Put them through. A screen on the wall activated. A Zoraxian appeared. Larger than the others, its skin patterns more complex. It spoke in perfect English. You have planted devices on our ship. Remove them and we will spare your lives. Rodriguez laughed bitterly. Like you spared the lives of the humans you experimented on? The children you harvested for your emotional compounds? The alien's colors shifted. We offer a trade. Your captured humans will be returned. We will leave your solar system. It's too late for deals, Rodriguez replied. He looked at his watch. In about 20 seconds, you're going to feel what we've been feeling. For the first time, the alien showed something like fear. You don't understand what you're doing. The neural shock will affect all Zoraxians everywhere, even those not involved in this conflict. Rodriguez remembered Carly Peters screaming as they cut into her without anesthesia. He thought of the thousands of humans who had suffered and died. We understand perfectly, he said quietly. The devices activated simultaneously. On the screen, the Zoraxian leader convulsed, its colors flashing chaotically. Throughout the ship, aliens fell to the floor, their bodies twitching as the emotional data overwhelmed their neural network. Rodriguez and his team felt nothing, protected by their humanity, the very thing the Zoraxians had tried to exploit. It's working, Rodriguez reported. They're completely incapacitated. On Earth, Chen monitored the effect. The signal is propagating through their entire fleet. Their ships are losing power and coordination. Blackwood gave the order. All ships, engage now. Take out their weapons and engines. The human fleet attacked the disabled alien ships with everything they had. Without their neural coordination, the Zoraxians couldn't mount an effective defense. Hours later, as the battle ended, Blackwood received a transmission from the Zoraxian leader. Its appearance had changed. The colors dulled, the movements sluggish. We surrender, it said, its voice distorted. End the emotional attack. We will leave your world. Blackwood studied the alien on his screen. Release all human prisoners first, then we'll talk. Already done, the Zoraxian replied. We underestimated your species. We did not understand. Understand? What? Blackwood asked. That your emotions, what we thought was weakness, would be your greatest weapon. After the Zoraxian prisoners were confirmed released, Chen reduced the emotional attack to a level that allowed the aliens to function, but kept them weakened. In the aftermath, Earth's leaders debated what to do with the defeated invaders. Some wanted to use the emotional weapon to destroy them completely. Others argued for mercy. In the end, the decision was shaped by what humanity had learned from the conflict. The Zoraxians were returned to their ships under strict conditions. Earth would maintain a constant low-level emotional broadcast aimed at their home system, not enough to harm, but enough to prevent any future attack. Any Zoraxian ship approaching Earth would trigger the full Tears protocol again. Rodriguez, now promoted to captain, stood with Miller and Crawford at a memorial service for those lost in the war. As the names were read, including Frank Dominguez and Carly Peters, tears flowed freely. Do you think they finally understand? Crawford asked quietly. Miller nodded. They learned that human emotions aren't weakness, they're power. And they learned something else, Rodriguez added, his voice firm. When they witnessed human tears and still showed no mercy, Crawford finished his thought. Mercy was off the table. The memorial flame burned bright against the night sky, a reminder of what had been lost. and what had been saved.